guys, and welcome to week 1 of our Dragon Eye project. This is going to be a clay project that we do this year, and this is week 1, and for this week we are going to be creating the actual eye of our dragon, and I'll go over the materials to make this in just a minute. But after we do this week, next week we're actually going to be using our Model Magic or whatever kind of clay that you have. You could even use Play-Doh if you have that, to create the eyelid around our eye and to create some cool designs that kind of look like dragon scales. And we can use a bunch of different colors as well, so that's going to be really exciting. But the first step is to create this eye, and to create this eye you're going to need a few different things. You will need some paper, some colored pencils, whatever colors you want. You're going to need a Sharpie, a pair of scissors, and a glue stick. I also ordered these glass beads from Amazon, and these are really great because they're rounded on the top. It might be hard for you to see, but they're rounded on the top and then they're flat on the bottom. And I will leave a link for these specific glass beads that I ordered in the description box down below so that you can get some for yourself. This is definitely not mandatory though. You could use those little glass gems that you can find at the Dollar Tree. Anything that is a piece of glass, basically. It's just a round piece of glass. These are great because they're already circular, and like I said, they're rounded on the top and flat on the bottom. And that is everything that you're going to need to make this really cool eye portion for our dragon eye. So let's go ahead and get started. So you're going to get a glass bead. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot. You're also going to need a pencil at the beginning of this because we are going to trace this bead all the way around. So I'm just holding it down with my finger. If it moves out of place, you can just line it back up. And I'm just holding it still. I'm taking my pencil and tracing around. It's okay if it's not exactly perfect as long as we have the right size, because we're going to glue this to the back of this in just a little bit. And I did like purples and pinks for this dragon eye, but for my next one I want to kind of do some greens and blues. So we are going to be creating tints and shades, and in the center of your dragon eye you want it to be the lightest, and as it gets closer to the outer edge of the circle it's going to get darker, and that's going to create value, one of our elements of art. So I actually like to start on the outside, and I'm just doing a little, kind of like a zigzag, but I'm just coloring it in basically. And to make my value darker around the outer edge, I'm just taking the same exact color that I started with and I'm pressing down harder, okay? And like I said earlier, whenever you go towards the center of your circle, it's gonna get lighter. So I'm not gonna press down as hard. And I want the center to be almost white, okay? And I'm gonna go over that line, you see where it's like really dark and then it gets super light, and I'm just going to blend it together by doing another coloring over top of that, and that's gonna help those two values blend together. And I'm just gonna keep on going over the same areas until I'm happy with the coverage, because we really don't want any of this white paper showing through. We want it to be completely colored as best as you can. If you want, you can layer different colors on top of one another to create a very cool and unique color to your dragon eye. That's totally up to you. So I just switched from this darker teal color to a lighter teal color because I felt like my eye needed a little bit of a pop of color. It'll add more dimension to your eye, and it'll just make it look overall more interesting if you use multiple colors. I still want the outside edge of my eye to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to take a dark blue color, and I'm just going to go on the outer edge here and really press down harder to make that color darker. You could even go in with a white to blend those colors really well together. All right, I think I am happy with that. As you can see, I experimented with a lot of different colors. I started out with that blue tealish color. I added some green. I added even some purple around the outer edge to make it really dark. And as you can see, my center, or the center of my eye, is a lot brighter than the rest of my eye. So once you're happy with the color of your eye and the value inside of it, then we are just going to take some scissors and cut it out just around the outside edge. Alright, so I just cut that out. Now I can take my glass bead, and we want to make sure, if you're using the same kinds of beads that I have, you want to make sure that you are going to draw the pupil, which is what we're about to do with Sharpie. Make sure you draw the pupil on the flat side of your bead. We don't want to draw it on the rounded side because it'll end up looking a little bit strange. We want it to look like the pupil is inside of our eye. And the way we do that is by drawing the pupil on the flat side of the bead. Okay, so I'm going to take a Sharpie, and on the flat side of my glass bead, I'm just going to try my best to draw a line down the center. It's okay if it's not perfect. And then I'm going to draw two curved lines connecting the top and the bottom of that first line that we drew. So we're making like an ellipse shape. Think of an ellipse shape as like a football as well. So it's a football shape or an ellipse, and then you're just going to color it in. We want to make sure that this Sharpie is 100% dry before we glue this to this. Okay, so just make sure it's dry. I like to blow on it a couple times. And you can check to see if it's dry by just tapping it with your finger. And if any Sharpie comes off, then we know that it's not dry yet. So just be patient. And once it is completely dry, then we can take a glue stick, and we're just going to glue right on top of the colored side of our eye. So I'm going to put the glue directly on that colored pencil side that I just did. Don't need a lot of glue, just a small layer. And then we're going to glue the flat side of our glass bead to our colored pencil circle here. I'm just going to glue it. Make sure it's secure. And there is my dragon eye. And since we drew that pupil with our Sharpie on the flat side, now our pupil looks like it's actually inside of our eye. If we drew it on the curved side, then that pupil would look like it's on the outside of the eye, and it would look a little bit strange. So that is why we draw the pupil on the flat side. But these end up looking super duper cool. I love how you can choose your own colors of your eye. You can experiment with the colors. And it actually ends up looking really realistic, which is pretty cool. And it's gonna look even more cool whenever we start using our model magic and create the eyelids and the scales of our dragon next week. If you guys aren't able to get these glass gems or any glass gems from the dollar store, doesn't really matter what kind, it's the same exact process. They can be smaller than this, they could be an oval instead of a circle, whatever you want. But if you're not able to get anything like this, then you guys can just skip this step and you can create your actual eye out of Model Magic next week. Last but not least, if you're in my face-to-face class and I hand you a paper plate, you're going to turn this into me on the paper plate. So just make sure your name is somewhere on that plate for me so we don't get our eyes mixed up. Alright, I hope you guys have a lot of fun creating these really cool glass eyes for our dragon eyes. I can't wait to see how they turn out. I know they're going to be amazing because you guys are amazing. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!